Every day when I walk into my front room, I see this 8-foot diagonal painting painted by my father, Herb Lenz. It's a painting done in the 1960s, actually signed in 1968 by my dad. As you can see, it's pretty much a summary of the 60s, the destruction of the 60s, and the condition of the society, probably from my dad's viewpoint. And today when I look at it, it just looks a little bit different because my dad passed away today, April 19th, 2021. Yes, my dad was a classically trained artist. And right here is a picture of him at the Chicago Art Institute. Right there where the arrow is. That's my dad. I don't know the exact year of this. I really don't, but I think it's pretty cool. I found it in a compilation of photos today. Of course, the day he passed, I went home with my mom and asked my mom to see some photos because I just felt the way I can work through all of this grief best is to pay tribute to him. And I found some really cool photos. One of the photos I found absolutely blew me away. This has to be my dad probably right after high school or probably when he's just about ready to go to the Art Institute. I don't know, but I don't know about you, but this dude is good looking. My dad was always a pretty good looking guy, but man, when I look at this, I say, damn, Dad, you killed it. You should have been in Hollywood. And I could see why he's told me some stories about things when we went to go play pool, and I could see, anyways, they were mommy and daddy stories before my mom, of course, and I could see why my dad probably got pretty lucky. You may be asking yourself, what baseball team did my dad root for? The Cubs or the White Sox? Well, my dad grew up at 4400 South Mozart, so I think that pretty much tells you he was a White Sox fan. Not only was he a White Sox fan, his dad was a White Sox fan, and he even got to go to some of the 59 Sox games for the pennant, and that's pretty impressive. My dad's uncles owned property in Indiana, Fish Lake to be exact. I'm not certain that these photos are from that, but this is the kind of activity my dad loved to do. Be out in the wilderness, camp, and do things like that. Now with me, he didn't really camp. I think he liked staying at a hotel better. I think he got out of his system when he was young. That's what I think. Yeah. One thing my dad was very good at was fishing. I don't know his age in this photo. I think he's probably in high school, right? I mean, you can tell me as much as I can. The pictures aren't marked, but one thing I never really liked was fishing, but I did go fishing with him a few times in Wisconsin. That's about it. Yes, my dad did like to hunt, and I do know that he would use a shotgun and actually go quail hunting, and I don't know what else, but he did mention quail, and ducks as well. This is a photo from 1973 from Breen Lake. That's Breen Lake. I know that is a fish that he has hanging on his wall today. He had that, stuffed? I don't know. But he was very proud of that fish. It also generated an accommodation from the Angler Society of North America for that catch. One of the things my dad was very proud of was the fact that he served our military. He was a technical artist and animator in the Air Force. What I found fascinating is that my dad held very high security clearance because of his work on the B-47 bomber project, where he was a technical animator and draftsman for many of the weapon systems on that plane. His military service really carved a niche for him after he left the military. He moved to California and worked for Raytheon and also McDonnell Douglas. It wasn't always top secret artwork that my dad did. He tells me stories about the fact that there was a general on his base that liked the way he made charts, and he actually made charts to go in front of Congress for military bending or whatever they were doing with the aircraft. Well, I don't know, but it was definitely something that he did for the general, and it got him some favors in the long run. And occasionally he would kick back and put his feet up on his desk because he could. He was the general's friend. I don't know. I'm not saying that actually, but he did tell me that it worked out very well to have that experience and to do the extra duties when called upon for Congress. Actually, my dad tells me this great story that I'm going to tell now. He was flying on a flight between bases, and he was on the general's airplane. It was actually a Constellation, I believe, and he ate the general's lunch. He didn't know that it was. He did not know that it wasn't the general's lunch, and the general was wondering where his lunch was, and he realized, oh wait, there's only 1 or 2 lunches on the plane. They thought it was for them, just a few of the enlisted men. Not so much. My dad is very proud of his service in the military, and he really is serious about his role in it, and I'm very thankful that he imparted some of those work ethics in me. Do the job right the first time, don't do it twice. One of the things that my dad loved more than anything was playing golf. And on the military base, as you can see, he was playing golf. But not only did he play golf, he ran the golf course. He helped run the golf course on that Texas Air Base for, I think, 2 to 3 years. And it was one of the highlights of his life. Definitely made his game fantastic. He was a very good golfer, and something he never really imparted in me since I'm not a good golfer at all. But the one thing he did do is teach me to skate, and I'm so thankful for that. I hope for my dad's sake that heaven has a few good golf courses. He certainly deserves to play. At the very end of my dad's military service, my dad drew this comic board here to show the names of the people he served with and the situations he was in. Up in the upper left-hand corner, there's the cartoon of him eating the general's lunch on the airplane. That's pretty amazing. In the middle above the stripes, I believe there's the caption of the general pointing at him like for a job well done. I believe that's the general that he's animating for the work for graphics that were presented to Congress. In the lower right, there's 3 captions about golf. There's 2 that appear to be drinking and 1 about pool. My dad loved model aviation. In fact, he was doing it as a kid and grew up with it. My dad was a very good aircraft builder, and this model here is actually a rubber band powered aircraft and could actually stay aloft for several minutes because of the rubber band that's inside of it. And that's just the beginning of what he would do. He then moved on to radio-controlled sailplane gliders, to larger-scale gas gliders. This one's probably about a 50-inch wingspan that could stay aloft as long as you could find a thermal. That could be an hour or 2 if you were lucky. To me, the coolest were the launched gliders. Using a car battery and a car starter, you would actually launch the glider into the air, and it would lift it up as much as probably about 100 feet. And once again, this didn't have an engine, so you could keep it up for a long time. My dad also had another hobby. It was restoring his 1957 MGA. Somewhat bitter part of this is that this is the same car that almost killed him in California when he drove it off a cliff. Yes, I said drove it off a cliff. He came out of a tunnel and he just missed a truck that was going outside its own lane, and he went off the road and drove off of an embankment. Very similar to, I guess, what Tiger Woods just went through. And my dad was clinically dead for a short period of time. After his recovery, the insurance company gave him a replacement car. It was the same car, and he drove it back to Chicago and parked it in a garage where he really didn't drive it for a decade or if not longer. In the late 70s, my dad felt motivated, and he also had the garage space to actually work on this car and restore it. He did, and then he sold it. As I'm going through all these memories, I'm realizing I'm not telling you about how my mom met my dad. Actually, I don't really know exactly how they met. What I do know is that they did get married, and I'm very thankful because he is the only dad I've ever known. I don't know my biological dad, and he's already since passed away. So I don't know any other dad than my dad, Herb. And I'm so thankful for that I took his last name. I took the name Lenz. In 1999, I played in a B League down at Johnny's Ice House in Chicago called the Gray Wolves. My dad did the logo for that team, and of course, we gave him his own jersey. On that team also was my childhood friend, Gary Kanabe, who also was a practice goaltender for the Wolves and the Chicago Blackhawks. How can you lose a game when you got a guy like that on your team? We didn't lose many. One of my favorite stories is when my dad actually went to come see me play. And he did quite often at Johnny's because they had a bar there, and he liked that. Well, one day there was a bartender who was either Russian or Serbian, and he didn't know how to make a Manhattan. So my dad said, I can show you how to make a Manhattan. The guy led him right behind the bar so that he could show him how to make a Manhattan. Well, let me tell you, my dad made a 6-finger Manhattan that I've never seen so large, and I'm just putting my head down going, oh my God. Well, the guy was thrilled to know how to make a Manhattan. The only thing is, I certainly hope he doesn't make every Manhattan like that, or the bar's going to be broke. Wait, who's that guy? Oh, that's my dad, with a Manhattan in his hand at Moody's Pub in Chicago on Broadway. The one thing that my dad did with me through all the years was play pool. And no matter what condition his health was in, he always played. And today I lost my pool buddy. The game won't be the same. It just won't. We played once a week for 25 years, basically. There were a few times when we didn't play, but it was if he had any kind of downturn in his health, which wasn't that often, but he did have a couple bouts with cancer, and he was always able to bounce back. The thing I really loved about playing with my dad is the fact that he never really let me win. Years ago, I could never beat him. And only relatively recently could I beat him on a consistent basis as he was getting older and my game was getting much better. That's what really made me a good pool player and really led me to understand that to make someone better, you can't take it easy on them. And I'm so thankful for that. One thing I've always thanked my dad for was the fact that playing pool with him for all those years made me such a good passer off the boards in hockey. A lot of times my passes go right to the player I'm targeting, and they say, that was a great pass. And I'll say, you can thank my dad for that. My mom and dad will have been married 50 years next year in 2022 if my dad had made it, but he did not. He was in pain. He had advanced liver cancer that really went undetected. Amazingly how advanced it was and how it just ravaged his body. What I'm so thankful for is that he was around to see my daughter, Raina, be adopted and grow up. She's now 14 years old, and that's really important to me. Dad, thank you for everything you've done for me. Thank you for always being there. I love you with all my heart. Yeah, I know we'll catch up someday, but I just want to say thank you for being my dad.